Mike Thompson lay beneath his old pickup truck, hands covered in grease, when a cold laugh echoed behind him. It was Rachel Matthews, his new boss, in her expensive leather jacket and contemptuous gaze. She took a photo of him like he was some kind of joke, but then she uttered a sentence that stunned all the mechanics around, a sentence no one expected. In that moment, a deep secret began to emerge, something that would turn Mike's life upside down and force Rachel herself to bow her head before the man she once despised. This is the story of a single father who was looked down upon, a boss living with a false past, and the moment when exposed truth changed everything. If you've ever been underestimated, you'll see yourself in this story. The early December wind cut through Mike Thompson's worn jacket as he walked his 8-year-old daughter Lily to the school bus stop. At 39, the lines around his eyes had deepened, not just from age, but from the weight of responsibility he'd carried alone since his wife Sarah's passing 3 years ago. Heart disease had taken her suddenly, leaving him the sole provider and caretaker for their daughter. "Daddy, do you think Mrs. Wilson will like my science project?" Lily asked, her breath forming small clouds in the cold morning air. Mike knelt down, adjusting her pink knit hat. "She's going to love it, sweetheart. You worked so hard on it." As the yellow school bus appeared around the corner, Mike gave Lily a tight hug. "Remember, Grandma Elsie's picking you up today. I have to work late." The truth was, Mike had been picking up extra shifts at Riverside Auto, the garage where he'd worked for the past 11 years. The medical expenses stemming from Sarah's illness had burdened him with debt that felt overwhelming, and each additional hour brought him nearer to achieving financial stability. Riverside Auto sat on the outskirts of their small Pennsylvania town, a weathered building that had served the community for generations. Mike began his journey as a junior mechanic, climbing the ranks through relentless determination and innate talent. Cars spoke to him in a language he understood, their mechanical hearts revealing their ailments through sounds and vibrations his colleagues often missed. His 1996 Ford pickup truck, however, was another story. The vehicle had seen better days, with rust creeping along its wheel wells and a persistent rattle that Mike simply hadn't had time to address. But it ran, mostly, and that was enough. Until today, when it sputtered to a stop just 2 blocks from Mao. The garage. Mike turned the key again, listening to the labored coughing of the engine before it fell silent. He checked his watch, 4:45 a.m. His shift started at 6, and the new manager, Rachel Matthews, had made it abundantly clear that tardiness wouldn't be tolerated. Rachel Matthews had arrived at Riverside Auto just 3 weeks ago, sent by the corporate office after old man Jenkins finally retired. Where Jenkins had been all flannel shirts and easy smiles, Rachel was pressed pantsuits and cold efficiency. Her heels clicked sharply across the concrete floor of the garage as she surveyed what she openly called the mess I've been sent to clean. Up. Mike popped the hood of his truck, his breath visible in the pre-dawn chill. He'd have to fix it here and now if he wanted to keep his job. Grabbing the small toolbox he kept behind the seat, he set to work, his fingers already stiffening in the cold. 20 minutes later, lying on his back beneath the truck, Mike heard the distinctive purr of a luxury vehicle pulling up beside him. He knew who it was before he saw the Italian leather boots step out onto the slushy pavement. "Well, well, well," Rachel's voice cut through the morning quiet. "What do we have here? The great Mike Thompson lying in the gutter." Mike slid out from under the truck, wiping his hands on a rag that had once been white. "Morning, Miss Matthews. Just a minor issue with the—" "Save it," she cut him off, pulling out her phone. The camera flash momentarily blinded him as she took a photo. "This is priceless. Our supposed senior mechanic can't even keep his own vehicle running." 2 of Mike's co-workers, arriving for their shifts, slowed their pace, awkwardly witnessing the interactions. "I'll be on time," Mike said softly, rising to his feet. At 6'1", he towered over Rachel's 5'4" frame, but somehow she made him feel small. "You know what's sad?" Rachel's perfectly manicured finger jabbed at his chest. "This is exactly why you'll never move up in the world. You're stuck, Thompson. Stuck in the same rut as this pathetic excuse for a vehicle." Mike sensed warmth creeping to his cheeks, yet maintained a calm facade. Lily was desperate for this job, craving the health insurance it offered. He couldn't afford to lose his temper. Fix your life first, then fix your truck, Rachel sneered, turning to leave. But then she paused, and something strange crossed her face, a flicker of recognition, perhaps even vulnerability. You remind me of someone I used to be. The statement hung in the air like exhaust on a cold morning, surprising everyone who heard it. Before anyone could respond, Rachel marched toward the garage. Her moment of humanity sealed away as quickly as it had appeared. Over the next several weeks, Rachel seemed determined to make Mike's life at Riverside Auto unbearable. His hours were cut, then rearranged, making his childcare arrangements nearly impossible to maintain. The best jobs, the complex diagnostics that Mike excelled at, were assigned to younger mechanics, while Mike was relegated to oil changes and tire rotations. "I'm streamlining operations," Rachel announced during a staff meeting, her eyes locking with Mike's. "Some of you may find it challenging to adapt to modern methods. Those who can't keep up might want to consider other opportunities." The message couldn't have been clearer. She wanted him gone. During his lunch break, Mike sat alone in the small break room, a space that had once been filled with laughter and conversation before Rachel's reign began. Now mechanics ate quickly and returned to work, afraid to be seen wasting time. Tom Davis, a younger mechanic who had been mentored by Mike, slid into the seat across from him. "She's got it in for you, man," he whispered. "What did you do to piss her off?" Mike unwrapped his homemade sandwich, peanut butter and jelly, the same one he packed for Lily. "Existed, I guess." "It's more than that," Tom insisted. "She watches you different than the need this job, and so do you." But Tom was right. Rachel's focus on Mike seemed personal, almost obsessive. She criticized his work in front of customers, questioned his time cards, and once even suggested that tools missing from the shop might have found their way into Thompson's home garage. Mike endured it all silently, returning home each night, to help Lily with homework, to read her bedtime stories, to be the father his daughter deserved. If Lily noticed the deepening circles under his eyes, or the way his smile sometimes didn't reach them, she didn't say anything. Until one evening, as he tucked her in, "Daddy, are you sad because of your boss lady?" Lily asked, her small hand reaching up to touch his cheek. Mike blinked in surprise. "What do you know about my boss? I heard you talking to Grandma Elsie. You said she was making work hard." Mike sighed, sitting on the edge of Lily's bed. "Sometimes grown-ups don't get along, sweetheart. But that's my problem, not yours. Mrs. Wilson says when someone is mean to you, it's because they're hurting inside," Lily said, her 8-year-old wisdom catching Mike off guard. He smiled, genuinely this time. "Maybe you're right, Lilypad, now get some sleep." That night, after Lily was asleep, Mike sat at his small kitchen table, bills spread out before him. The mortgage was 2 months behind, and Lily needed new winter boots. Something had to give, and it couldn't be his daughter's well-being. A knock at the door startled him. It was nearly 11 o'clock, too late for casual visitors in their quiet neighborhood. When he opened the door, no one was there. Just a manila envelope on the welcome mat, unmarked except for his name written in black letters. Inside was a printout of what appeared to be a personnel file. Rachel Matthews' photo stared back at him, but the name on the file read Rachel Miller. Attached was a newspaper clipping from a small town in Ohio dated 10 years earlier. The headline read, "Local mechanic fired, facing charges after sabotage allegation." A note was paper-clipped to the documents. "Look closer, she's not who she says she is." Mike's heart raced as he read further. According to the article, Rachel Miller had been fired from Walker's auto shop after being caught sabotaging equipment and blaming fellow mechanics. Charges were eventually dropped in exchange for her leaving town, but the scandal had effectively ended her career there. A career as a mechanic, not a corporate manager. Mike spent half the night researching, using his ancient laptop to dig through public records. What he found confirmed everything in the envelope. Rachel Matthews and Rachel Miller were the same person. She had changed her name, fabricated a business degree, and somehow worked her way into management at the very corporation that owned Riverside Auto. The woman who had been tormenting him, who had looked down on him and his fellow mechanics, had once been one of them. Until her own choices had led to her downfall. The next morning, Mike arrived at work early, the evidence safely tucked into his work bag. He wasn't sure what he planned to do with it yet. Expose her, confront her privately, use it as leverage to secure his position. He didn't have to decide. Rachel made the choice for him. As the morning meeting wrapped up, she singled him out. "Thompson, I noticed you working on your personal vehicle during company time yesterday. That warrants instant dismissal." The accusation was false. Mike had been helping a customer whose car wouldn't start in the parking lot after hours. "I wasn't on the clock," he said evenly. "Your time card says otherwise," Rachel countered, producing a printout that Mike immediately recognized as altered. "I've been watching you, Thompson. Taking advantage of company resources, stealing time. It ends today." The other mechanics shifted uncomfortably. They knew the truth, but jobs were scarce, and no one wanted to be next. "This garage has no place for the weak in their junk cars," Rachel continued, her voice rising as she gained confidence from their silence. "Pack your things." Something inside Mike snapped. Not anger, but a calm certainty that this moment, this injustice, wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Lily, about integrity, concerning the essence of reality. He reached into his bag and pulled out the documents. "Before I leave, Rachel, I believe it's important for everyone to understand who is truly in charge of this garage." His voice remained calm as he set the articles down on the table. "Or should I call you Rachel Miller, the mechanic who was fired for sabotage?" The color drained from Rachel's face. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "You should fix your past before mocking someone else's present," Mike said loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're not the only one who knows how to do research." The garage fell silent. Rachel's hands trembled as she reached for the documents, but Tom had already picked them up, scanning the headlines with wide eyes. "Is this true?" he asked, looking at Rachel. "You were a mechanic? You sabotaged equipment?" Rachel opened her mouth, closed it, then turned and stormed out of the garage, the click of her heels echoing like gunshots on the concrete floor. By afternoon, the story had spread throughout the small town. Tom, it turned out, had a cousin who worked at the local newspaper. 2 days later, the headline ran, "Garage manager has a past she tried to bury. Local mechanic uncovers the truth." The corporate office couldn't ignore the publicity. An internal investigation was launched, and within a week, Rachel Matthews, or Miller, was suspended pending further review. 2 weeks after that, she was gone for good. Her fabricated credentials and hidden past deemed too significant to overlook. Mike was called into a meeting with a representative from corporate headquarters, a serious man named Frank Wilson. "Thompson, we owe you an apology," Wilson said, sliding a folder across the desk. "We clearly failed in our vetting process. Miss Matthews, or Miller, provided falsified references and documentation." Mike nodded, unsure where this was heading. "We're restructuring the management at Riverside. Jenkins has agreed to come back temporarily while we find a permanent replacement." Wilson paused. "In the meantime, we'd like to offer you the position of technical team leader. It comes with a significant pay increase and more regular hours." Mike stared at the offer letter, the salary figure swimming before his eyes. It was nearly double what he currently made. "Why me?" he managed to inquire. Wilson's expression softened slightly. "Because you knew something was wrong and you spoke up. Because every customer I've talked to mentions you by name. And because, frankly, you know more about cars than anyone else in that shop." That evening, Mike picked Lily up from his mother-in-law's house, the offer letter safely tucked in his jacket pocket. "You look different, Daddy," Lily observed as they walked to the truck, which was now running smoothly after Mike had finally found time to properly repair it. "Different how, Lily pet?" "Call her," she decided, taking his hand. "Once more, your eyes are filled with a smile." The changes came quickly after that. With the promotion and raise, Mike was able to catch up on the mortgage and pay down some of Sarah's medical bills. Lily got her new winter boots, plus a bicycle for her upcoming 9th birthday. The atmosphere at Riverside Auto transformed as well. Without Rachel's oppressive presence, the mechanics returned to their easy camaraderie. Mike implemented a few changes: more training opportunities for junior staff, a fairer distribution of complex jobs. That improved both morale and productivity. Then came the letter from Westridge Academy, the prestigious private school on the other side of town. A local businessman had read the newspaper story about Mike and Rachel and had been impressed by Mike's integrity. He was offering Lily a full scholarship to attend the school's acclaimed STEM program. "But I like my school," Lily protested when Mike showed her the brochure. "There's no rush to make a decision," Mike reassured her, "but their science program is amazing. Mom would have loved it for you." The mention of Sarah softened Lily's resistance. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Mike said. "It's your future." 6 months after Rachel's departure, Mike made another decision. Using some of his savings and a small business loan, he put a down payment on a tiny commercial property just off Main Street. The building needed work, a lot of work, but the bones were good and the location was perfect. Weekends and evenings found Mike and a rotating crew of his colleagues from Riverside fixing up the space, new wiring, repaired concrete floors, fresh paint, and finally a sign, "Thompson Repairs." "You're really doing this?" Tom asked as they hung the sign one Saturday afternoon. "Art time for now," Mike explained. "I'll keep my job at Riverside, but this is for Lily's college fund." Tom nodded approvingly. "Smart move." Mike faced one final task to finish before the grand unveiling. His old Ford pickup, which had carried him through the hardest years of his life, deserved a proper restoration. He spent 2 weeks rebuilding the engine, replacing rusted panels, and finally giving it a new coat of paint. Deep blue, Sarah's favorite color. Across the hood, in simple white script, he added the words, "Still standing." The shop opened with little fanfare, but steady business. Word of mouth in a small town was better than any advertising campaign, and Mike's reputation for honest work and fair prices spread quickly. Life settled into a new rhythm. Mornings at Riverside, evenings at his own shop, and weekends with Lily, who had decided to accept the scholarship and was thriving in her new school's advanced science program. Then, one crisp October day, as Mike was closing up Thompson Repairs, a figure appeared in the doorway. Backlit by the setting sun, he couldn't make out the face at first, just the silhouette of a woman in jeans and a worn baseball cap. She stepped into the light and Mike froze. Rachel gone with the designer clothes and perfect makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she looked thinner, exhausted. "I heard you opened your own place," she said, her voice lacking. The sharp edge he remembered. Mike nodded, wary. "What do you want, Rachel?" She winced at the name, then squared her shoulders. "I go by Rose now, actually, Rose Miller. Back to my family name, but a fresh start." She glanced around the shop. "You've done well for yourself." "I worked for it," Mike said. "Neither hostile nor welcoming, every bit of it." Rachel, or Rose, nodded. "I know, that's why I'm here." "I wanted to say I'm sorry, not that it changes anything." Mike observed her intently. The woman before him bore little resemblance to the imperious manager who had tormented him. There was something almost vulnerable in her stance, something he recognized from his own darkest days after Sarah died. "What happened to you?" he found himself asking, after she gave a humorless laugh. "What didn't happen? I faced the loss of my job, my apartment, and my reputation once more. Couldn't get hired anywhere in management. Ended up moving back to my parents' house at 41 years old." She paused. "Rock Bottom has a basement, it turns out." Mike set down the wrench he'd been holding and gestured to 2 folding chairs in the corner. After a moment's hesitation, she took one and he sat in the other. "Why did you do it?" he asked. "The sabotage in Ohio, the fake credentials, all of it." Rose stared at her hands. "The first time in Ohio, I was desperate to prove myself. Only woman in the shop, constantly overlooked. I thought if I made the others look bad, they'd finally see my value." She shook her head. "Stupid and wrong. I know that now. After that fell apart, I couldn't get hired anywhere as a mechanic, so I reinvented myself. New name, fabricated degree. Worked my way up through office jobs until I landed the management track, and then they sent you to manage mechanics," Mike observed. "Ironic, right?" She met his eyes directly for the first time. "I thought I could do it. Be the boss. Show everyone how far I'd come. But then I saw you that morning under your truck and something in me just broke. You reminded me of who I used to be, before I took all those wrong turns. Someone who actually loved the work, who had genuine skill. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the ticking of the wall clock in distant traffic. I lost everything, but that day when I saw you kneeling under your truck, I saw myself again. Someone who once tried was kicked down, and once lived authentically, Rose finally said. Mike considered her words. Part of him wanted to tell her to leave, to take her apology and her sad story elsewhere. But another part, perhaps the part that had endured his own struggles, understood something about second chances. Redemption's possible, he said slowly, but only if you earn it. He stood up and walked to his truck, parked just outside the shop's bay doors. Running his hand along the newly painted hood, he continued. I didn't fix this truck to drive it, but to remind myself, never look down on someone trying to get back. Up. Rose nodded, standing as well. I should go. Thank you for listening. As she turned to leave, Mike called after her. The store on Elmwood Avenue is looking for help. The owner is an old acquaintance of Jenkins. Mention my name when you reach out. She stared at him, confusion evident on her face. You'd recommend me? After everything? Mike shrugged. Everyone deserves a chance to rebuild. Just be honest this time. Start from the bottom if you have to. Thank you, she said quietly. Then walked away, her figure gradually disappearing into the gathering dusk. The bell above the shop door jingled, and Mike turned to see Lily bouncing in, her backpack still on. Dad, Mrs. Peterson said my science project might qualify for the regional fair, she exclaimed, her excitement filling the quiet space Rose had left behind. Mike smiled, genuine and full. That's amazing, Lilypad. Tell me all about it while we close up. As Lily chattered about variable controls and data collection, Mike locked the shop door and helped her into the truck. Looking at his daughter, confident, curious, thriving, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. They had weathered the storm together, this little family of two. The struggles hadn't disappeared entirely. There were still bills to pay, still moments when he missed Sarah so intensely it took his breath away. But they had found their footing on new, more solid ground. The truck's engine turned over smoothly on the first try. Mike put it in gear and headed home, the words still standing, catching the last light of day on the hood before them. If you've ever been mocked while trying to get back on your feet, remember Mike, who turned contempt into strength. Sometimes a broken truck can lead to justice, and sometimes what you fix isn't the vehicle, but an entire prejudice.